And once again, welcome to this session. I hope you have a good day so far. So, what we are going to discuss in today's session, it's about AI agents for boosting your research, and it does include literature reviews. It does include paper writing. It does include about the how papers are reviewed, and it has a mix of different stuff. So, more specifically, we'll start with what is an AI agent. And I'm sure that many of you have heard about AI agents, but maybe not all of you are exactly clear about what exactly an AI agent is and what it does. Then we are going to focus on AI agents for research use cases. And in that one, we will cover about the systematic literature review, research proposal drafting, manuscript writing, poster generation, paper review, and lastly, data visualization. And we will end the session with some cautions that when we are using AI agents as a researcher, what are the things that we need to be careful about so that we don't end up kind of AI harming us instead of we taking reasonable advantage from AI itself as far as research is concerned. Now, the first question is that what is an AI agent? Now, an AI agent, it basically what it does is that you ask us to do a task for you, and then that agent it uses a mix of things like, for example, tools, its own memory, and some kind of planning to execute that task for you. So this is a broader definition of what is an AI agent. Now, from the definition, you might not understand it that well, that what is Fahim talking about, what exactly he means by AI agent. However, if I show you the next slide, which is this one, so these might be more familiar to you. For example, I believe that all of you would know what is ChatGPT. Most of you would know what is Siri, Google Assistant, Alexa. These are AI agents. And what these does is that you ask it to do a particular task, and then it does that task for you to the best of its ability. For example, I'm sure all of you would have used ChatGPT. And what ChatGPT does is that you write a prompt, and ChatGPT does perform a task against that prompt. Like, for example, if you ask it to give me, let's suppose, 10 tips for writing a research paper, so it will scroll it will go through its own data, and based on that, it will generate an answer for you that is best answer against the prompt you have entered. So these things are very much common in our life these days, and there are more and more of these. So if I show you the next slide, you would see that AI agents are being introduced in different domains of our lives. So the ones that I showed you in the previous slide, like for example, ChatGPT, it is a general purpose AI agent. But then there are AI agents that are for specific domains, like for example, for commerce, for customer support, for API integration, for voice-based chatting, and so on and so forth. So this brings me to the very point of this whole webinar, that since there are these AI agents, some are generic, like Alexa, ChatGPT, DeepSeek, and then there are some specific, which are for particular domains, like for business or for finance or for cybersecurity and so on. So can we have an AI agent that is specific for research, right? That is the main single point of this webinar. Can we have an AI agent that is specifically designed for researchers? So this brings us to this point. AI agent for research. In SciSpace, it has developed this AI agent which is specifically designed for scientific community. Now, the objective of this webinar, it is not promotional, it is educational. So we will take SciSpace as an example, but there are other AI agents that might be introduced in future, and you can use those as well. The main point is that how you can use an AI agent to boost your own scientific research. Now, If we compare it with the traditional way of doing research, we, like, for example, when I did PhD around 5 or 6 years ago, I started in 2016. Many of the things I did manually. For example, I did a couple of systematic literature reviews in my PhD, all from A to Z, everything was done manually. I designed the search query, I collected the papers, then went through a process of identifying the relevant papers, then extracting data from those papers, and then writing a literature review paper. So that kind of approach, or that traditional approach, it takes a lot of time. Particularly, there are so many repetitive tasks that can be easily automated through tools like SciSpace or any other AI agent. So that is the focus of this webinar, that how we can do research more efficiently. For example, the first literature review that I did, it took me around 4 months. But if I do a literature review today, it might same kind of quality of literature review might take me only a month. And this is because that the way we do research, it is changing. It is rapidly evolving. I understand there are some bits and pieces attached to it. For example, the ethical angle of it, the plagiarism, the integrity, and so on and so forth. Those things we will cover. But for now, you can keep one thing in mind, that what we are focusing on is that how we can do research more efficiently. So as I mentioned, that these are some of the use cases that we will cover in today's session. So manuscript writing, I'm sure that most of you as a researcher, you would be aware of the fact that when you do research, you need to write it down in the form of manuscript and have it sent to a journal or some conference. In fact, in the poll that Deepak ran earlier, there were many participants who were interested or who were in the phase of writing manuscripts. Then we look at peer review support. So what this one means is that when you write a paper, so it goes out in a journal, for example, and then the journal forwards it to reviewers who are expert in that field, and then they give you some comments that, okay, for example, these are the strengths, these are the weaknesses, and whether the paper is accepted or it is rejected. The same kind of review you can also get from an AI agent. So before you send the paper out, you already have a review, and then you kind of define your manuscript based on that review. And after that, it goes to the reviewer. We will cover about scientific posters. So for posters, most of you might be aware that when you go to a conference, you might present your research as in the form of a poster, or if you are attending any exhibition, any event where you want to present your research. So obviously you can't present the whole bit by bit paper. You have to summarize it in the form of a poster. So that kind of thing also can be done through an AI agent. Then systematic literature review, most of you mentioned that you are doing or you're interested in systematic literature reviews. So that will also we will cover. Then the patent and prior art research, then grant discovery and drafting of a research proposal, and lastly about data visualization. So these are some of the use cases. We will cover these in the sense that how we can use an AI agent to get these things done. And then on the top of that, how you can jump in to put human in the loop to refine the output given by an AI agent. Now, first, how SciSpace AI agent works. So it has certain steps. The first one is that you need to input your own task. You need to tell it what exactly you want it to do for you. So it is very much similar to the way you ask ChatGPT to perform a task for you. You need to write a prompt, and SciSpace will execute the task against that prompt. Then what happens is that you get an output. After the prompt, you don't have to do anything. You just need to wait for the output. But in the middle, there are certain steps, like, for example, agent takes over, smart search and processing, structured output generation, like tracking, easy access to outputs. These are the things you don't have to do anything, but this is what you can see on your screen when the task is being done by the AI agent. The reason it shows you all that steps is to make the process more transparent, so that you can see that how SciSpace has produced this output against a particular input. As a user, you don't have to do much. You just need to tell it what you want it to do. Okay, and then it produces an output. And the output, the good thing that I have seen, one of my favorite things, in fact, is that the output is you can access it in many different forms. For example, you can download it as a PDF file. You can download it maybe as a PPT file, and so on and so forth. So it gives you that leverage to have a kind of almost ready kind of output from the AI agent. So just to summarize, that the use of it is very simple. Write in few words what exactly you want it to do, and then leave it to the SciSpace AI agent. And then once the output is produced, you just take the output. Of course, it takes some time depending upon what you want it to do. It might take, like, for example, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes to produce the final output. Now we move towards the specific cases that I talked about. The first one is a systematic literature review. Now, very briefly, why we do systematic literature reviews? There are many different purposes for it. Some people do it because they're PhD students and they need to understand a field of study. Others do it because they have to write thesis, and for that they need to position the novelty of their own research with respect to the existing research. In industry, we do it in order to understand a field, and based on top of that, we try to build some product. So literature reviews, as a scientist, as a researcher, it is very important that you need to know what is the purpose of it, what is the type of literature review you want, because there are many different types as well. For example, systematic literature review is one type. Then there are historical review. Then there are narrative review. Then there is descriptive review. So in this session, we don't want to go into the types of the reviews, but for you, what is more important to understand is that as a researcher, you can't hide from literature reviews. You have to do it. However, at the same time, literature review, or I would say a review that is of a higher standard, that is of a good quality, to be published in a good journal, it takes a lot of time. Can we reduce that time? Yes, we can. And that is what we are going to talk about now. So, as I earlier mentioned, that a systematic literature review, if you do it the traditional way, you have to design the research questions, then you have to design the search string against which you collect papers. Then you go through different phases, finalize the set of papers, extract data, analyze data, report. But with the SciSpace agent, I'll show you that how it can be done more quickly. So let's have a look at this quick demo. So this is the interface of SciSpace agent, and similar to ChatGPT, you can see that you have you just write the prompt. Now, one thing is very important, and before we move further, it's important to pick it up, and that is that you might have a question in mind that why don't we use ChatGPT? Okay, why we use SciSpace AI? The reason is that, as I mentioned earlier, that ChatGPT, it's a general purpose AI agent. Okay, its output for a research task will not be as specific, concrete, and correct as a specific AI agent. I showed you that ChatGPT or DeepSeek, these are general purpose AI agents, but then in many fields we have these specific AI agents, like for example in commerce, in finance, in agriculture, and so on. And in the same way, we have this AI agent for research. So its output is more concrete, correct, and at the same time, my understanding is that it is trained on research-specific data, and for that reason, it produces more accurate outputs. So let's have a look. So you enter the prompt. Then you select deep review, and then it goes on from there. So on the left side, you can see all the steps that have been taken. On the right side, you can see a literature review. These are the files, and you can download each of the file. So this is how you can use SciSpace AI Agent. Now, at the end of the session, I'll show you some of the prompts that I ran on it and what is the output I got. So I'll share with you more kind of the a documented form of a literature review, that this is the prompt I wrote and this is the output I got from it. Now, the second one is about proposal drafting. I have seen in the answers that you have given that some of you are in the phases of writing proposals, and just to mention it for the benefit of all, that why we have to write a research proposal. So, as a PhD student, when you start, you have to write a research proposal. I believe at the master's level also, in majority of the universities, you need to write a research proposal. Even for grants, you need to write a research proposal. What is a proposal? You outline that, okay, for example, this is the kind of research I want to do. So in a nutshell, you answer three questions in a research proposal. What exact research you want to do, why you want to do that research, and how are you going to do that research. So a proposal, it is kind of a foundational stone for your bigger research. Now, research proposals in itself takes a lot of time to write. And I would not suggest to sort of put it all on AI to write a proposal, because it's very important that you put your own mind into things, that whether it aligns with your interest, it aligns with your expertise, and or not. And then you feed that kind of data into an AI agent to have it refined for you. So we can have a look at how proposal drafting works when it comes to SciSpace AI Agent. So again, you put a prompt. So it is first looking for grants, that, okay, what are the grants that are open? And then it will write a proposal against a particular open call. Now, the next one is about manuscript writing. So I have seen from the answers that majority of you are in the phase of writing manuscripts. So for the benefit of all, the way research works is that we have some research questions. We collect data about that research questions. The data can be collected through different means. You run an experiment, you run some interviews, you collect data from some documents, then you analyze the data, you answer those questions, and then you report it in the form of a research paper, for which you have to write a manuscript. Okay, so all the PhD students or anybody who is doing research, they are very much familiar with how manuscript writing works. Okay, again, it is a time consuming task. Writing research papers, it takes time, especially when you're new to research. You don't have the experience of how to put things in writing as far as research is concerned. So the same way as the previous two use cases that I've shown, that for the first one was for systematic literature review, the second one was for proposal writing, and now we are going to see how we can write manuscripts using SciSpace AI Agent. So you write a prompt. You can also upload your own data or your own findings, and you can say that, okay, based on these findings, prepare a draft for me of the manuscript. So you see, it is available in PDF form. It is available in the LaTeX form as well, if you want to export it into an LaTeX, like for example, an overleaf file. So this is a manuscript that it has prepared against the prompt that you have entered. and you can always download it using this button at the top. Now, the fourth use case is about scientific poster generation. So if you remember the use cases, the first one was about systematic literature review, the second one about research proposal, the third one about manuscript writing. Now we are at the fourth one, and that is about scientific poster generation. I already mentioned that we need posters in order to present our research in a concise form. It could be at a conference, it could be at a workshop, it could be at an exhibition or any other event, right? Or even sometimes some supervisors, they expect the student to present their findings or present their work in the form of a poster because it's more summarized and more easy to understand. Now, in my PhD time and even during my postdoc, I have made several posters, and I believe it's a very kind of a boring task in the sense that when you have a paper of, let's suppose, 40 pages, and you have to put it into half a page, so it's difficult to bring it down to that shorter form. But now with tools like SciSpace AI Agent, you can do it in seconds, and I literally mean you can do it in seconds. You don't have to sort of go through the whole paper and pick bits and pieces, put it in the poster. That all will be done for you by the tool. So let's have a look at how we can create a poster from a research paper. So this is a poster that I created for one of my recently published paper. And let's have a look how it works. So you can see in this poster, it has, I have not done anything except some minor corrections, but it has this different parts: introduction, data types, speech, discussion, methodology, causes, yearly trends, conclusions, and so on. So it's quite good. If I would have created it manually, perhaps I would create more or less the same thing, but it would take me a hell lot of time. Let's have a look how it works. So this is my paper, and what we see is that I'll go here, I'll upload my paper in the form of PDF, and then I will write a prompt, right? So convert the attached research paper into a poster. It is for an academic conference, general academic audience, highlight objective methodology results, and so on, right? So this is what I want in my poster. Sorry. Okay, I've entered the prompt, and that's it. So it's done, and I have it available in PPT form. I downloaded it from there, and then I made some minor changes here and there. And this is the final output that I've got. So as I mentioned that if I have to do it manually, it would take me a lot of time. But with such kind of AI agents, it just happens. It doesn't take more than a minute if you count the whole time. Now, the next one is about the research paper peer review. As I mentioned earlier, that why we need to have a review of our paper. So, like, let's suppose I have written a research paper, and traditionally, the way it works is that, for example, as a PhD student, when I used to write a research paper, I would send it to my PhD supervisor, and I would also perhaps give it to a postdoc in my research lab. They would give me some comments. Okay, for example, this thing is missing or this thing is extra, and so on and so forth. And then I would address those comments, and then I would send it out to a journal for publication. Now, to many students, this might not be available. For example, sometimes the supervisor are very, very busy. You might not have access to postdocs, or they might be very busy. So in that case, it's always good to seek feedback, automated feedback. And now you can get it through tools like these kind of AI agents. So what it does is that when you get that feedback, then you can put your own mind into it, that whether it makes sense or it doesn't make sense. For example, um, One thing that I used to do when I was in the early stage of research, I used to write very long sentences in my manuscript. Now, because I am writing it, it would make sense to me. But if somebody is reading it, it would become very boring and very much kind of not making sense. So, such kind of automated tool, they can easily identify that, okay, for example, these are the top 20 longest sentences in your manuscript, and you can easily go and break it down into smaller sentences. Similarly, grammar, typo, formatting issues, these can be very easily identified by AI agents. And even more kind of critical comments, that whether, for example, your GAPE statement is clear or not, whether the significance of the study is evident or not, these kind of feedback can be given by AI agents. So it's very beneficial to receive such kind of feedback, address it, and then send out the paper to a journal. It would definitely increase the chances of your paper acceptance. So let's have a look at how peer review works. So you enter your paper, you enter the prompt, and then this AI agent, it goes through the entire paper to share with you that, okay, for example, this is your review, this part is good, this part is not good. So you see that the review that you get, you might not agree to all the comments, but certainly there would be comments that you would agree with and that you can address in your paper as well. At the end of this, the slides, I'll show you that I reviewed one of my paper that I published in 2019 to see that whether the comments that it give me, how similar it is to the comments that I've got from actual reviewers. And interestingly, uh, the final recommendation, like for example, when you submit to a journal or a conference, they give you kind of an output that, okay, for example, accept it as it is, or minor revision or major revision or rejected, right? Interestingly, the output that I got from it, it is the same as I got from the journal at that time. And so I'll show you that one as well. And lastly, about the data visualization. So if particularly you are working with quantitative data, with numbers, in that case, it could be very useful. Sometimes we get a lot of results from an experiment, but those results does not make sense to us, right? Because it's a bunch of numbers. But if you visualize it in the form of bar chart or histogram or pie chart and those kind of things, it makes much more sense to you. So you can upload your data, you can ask it to visualize it in the form of, let's suppose, 10 different graphs and extract different insights from the data. So it gives you a more kind of space to analyze the data in a much better way. So let's have a look at how this one works. So this is a general query that, okay, create a dashboard for climate trends. So here you see it has created an amazing dashboard. And I believe that you can integrate it to some live feed of data, and it would automatically get updated in real time. In addition to this use case, you can also, as I mentioned, that if you have some experimental data or you have collected data from some source, you can feed it to it, and then it can analyze it for you, present it in the form of various graphs, and extract insights from you. And I believe that at the end, Deepak might be in a better position to tell you that how safe your data would be if you upload it to platforms like SciSpace, because this is one of the concern of many students or researchers, that you upload your data, be that your quantitative data or be that your manuscript, will it be breached, or is it safe or is it not safe? So certainly Deepak can enlighten you on that as far as SciSpace is concerned. Now, as I mentioned to you that because I use this AI agent myself as well, and I'll show you the outputs that I've got from it. So these are some of the prompts that I've entered for a literature review. Like for example, I asked it to do a literature review on security vulnerabilities and big data systems. These are the sections I want. I want like figures, references, and so on and so forth in the literature review. So what I'll do is that I'll show you very quickly that what is the output that I got from it. Let me show you the output that I got from this one. So I believe you can see the document. It's a PDF document and security vulnerabilities in big data systems. It has a table of contents, abstract, introduction. You can see all the different references included there, methodology, results. And you have critical analysis and synthesis. You have the strengths and weaknesses. You have the themes, chronological review, and you have the future practical implications and then limitations of existing literature. And finally, gaps and future research directions in case you are someone who is looking for a gap in the existing literature. So this is the output that I got against the prompt that I have shown you. Now I'll show you the second one, which was about the poster. I already shared with you that I created a poster using this agent. So let me show you the poster that I got from it. So you see, this is a poster that I got from it in a PPT form, so I can definitely like make edits as and where I want. But this is the output that I got from it against the prompt that I have shown you. And lastly, about the peer review, I also showed you that I reviewed one of my paper through this tool, which already got published. But what I wanted was to see that whether the reviews that I get from it is it the same or how similar or not similar it is to the actual reviews. So this is the review I got. Evaluation scores like 4/5, presentation 3/5 contributions, then the strengths, then the weaknesses on each section. And then an overall recommendation, which is like a minor revision. And this is what I got for the paper as well. Okay, so coming back to the presentation. So these are some of the sample prompts that I used. And if you plan to use this AI agent, these are the codes that you can use, and that would get you some discount. Now, the last part of this presentation, and that is about, so until this point, I've talked all the good sides of AI agent, that okay, you can use it for this, and so on and so forth, right? Now I'll flip and I'll talk about the other angle as well, that where you need to be more cautious or more careful when using AI agents. So the first one is that AI supports, but it does not replace. So as a researcher, you have to be there. You can't put everything on the shoulder of an AI, because in that case, you're not learning anything, right? You're not growing as a researcher if you put everything on AI. So the point here is that you need to use AI where it does not significantly hit your learning curve, right? So as I mentioned that during literature review, for example, there are many tasks that are repetitive in nature, right? So those kind of tasks can be automated to AI. Or I give you another use case about the poster. So manually creating poster, uh, it doesn't let you learn a lot, except having the ability to present something more comprehensive in a more concise form. And similarly, like for example, I showed you to receive feedback on a piece of your writing. These are the good use cases which doesn't hit your learning curve, right? Then the second one is that you need to be mindful of biases and limitations. So um, of course, AI, it's very good, the outputs are sometimes amazing, but then also you need uh, to be aware of its limitations as well, right? It is not an expert in your specific research area. Unlike, for example, you or your supervisor might be expert in that field or in that specific area, but an AI agent might not be. So you need to understand its limitations as well. And then you do not need to trust it blindly. Okay, so it's like you enter a prompt in anything that you got, you put it as the final thing, right? You need to go through it and refine it as and where needed. And the fourth point is that you need to sort of be, you know, actively involved there. Of course, it is going to produce an output when you ask it to produce it, but is it as what you want or is it not? So you have to be there, go through each and every single thing, do the double checking, and so on and so forth. The fifth thing is the academic integrity. Now, as a researcher or as an academic, it's very important that you uphold or adhere to the integrity standards, right? So, for instance, if you are submitting to a journal, you need to know its rules and regulations. That what are its guidelines as far as the use of AI tools is concerned. At times you might need to declare it. At times you might need to mention it to the editor that, okay, for example, for this kind of part, I have used AI. And you need to be, number six, aware of plagiarism. This is again very important. uh, if you are doing copy pasting from somewhere, in that case it might be flagged is plagiarism. So that also is a part that you need to be aware of when you're using AI. And the protection of sensitive information, as I mentioned earlier, that as far as SciSpace is concerned, Deepak can talk about it, that how safe your data would be. But definitely, you need to be aware that you don't upload your data somewhere where it is not safe and it gets into the wrong hands. And lastly, it's in my understanding, the way we do research, it's changing very rapidly. There are more efficient, more modern ways of doing research. And for that, what my suggestion to you would be that it's much better to be aware and to be up to date that what is happening in the methodological angle of research, that how we can use these modern ways in AI tools to do research that is of higher standard and that adheres to all the ethical and integrity standards. So that brings us to the end of this webinar.